Picture this: a glamorous millionaire's mansion perched on a sunlit California hillside. Inside, heated voices erupt. Olivia, heavily pregnant, clutches her suitcase while her husband, Benjamin Whitmore, a self-made mogul famous for his ruthless business acumen, demands she leave. As tears stream down her cheeks, another woman smirks from the corner. This is Cassandra, Benjamin's mistress, who believes she has just secured a life of glittering wealth at Olivia's expense. Little do they know, fate has a twisted sense of humor. Today, betrayal may reign supreme. But tomorrow, Olivia will return in a way no one expects, seizing not only the reins of her future, but also the very keys to her enemy's home. Olivia Henderson Whitmore was raised in the modest suburb of Glendale, California. She came from a tight-knit family, where her father, George Henderson, ran a small mechanic shop, and her mother, Miriam, taught violin to neighborhood children. From an early age, Olivia learned that loyalty and love were the cornerstones of a lasting marriage. When she met Benjamin Whitmore during her junior year at UCLA, she thought she had found that kind of love forever. He was an ambitious, towering figure, already earning money through entrepreneurial side hustles while still pursuing a degree in business administration. Benjamin had grown up in a less fortunate environment, adopted by an older couple who never had children of their own. He was always hungry for success. By the time he graduated, he'd launched a small tech startup that provided logistical solutions for major retailers. His appetite for domination in the market was unmatched. So was Olivia's belief in him. After college, the two got married in a quaint ceremony at a hilltop chapel. Their wedding was neither lavish nor cheap, just personal, intimate, and brimming with genuine joy. With sparkling eyes, they promised each other a lifetime of commitment, partnership, and unwavering support. For nearly a decade, they faced the world as a united front. Through the sweat and tears of establishing Benjamin's multi-million-dollar enterprise, Whitmore Innovations, they celebrated every milestone together. Olivia sometimes performed tasks as simple as filing paperwork or organizing events, but she always stood by Benjamin, cheering him on through late nights and stressful negotiations. When the news arrived that Olivia was pregnant, no one was more overjoyed than her parents, George and Miriam. Meanwhile, Benjamin's reaction was strangely subdued. He smiled, yes, and even took her out for a celebratory dinner at a chic downtown restaurant, but there was a subtle distance in his eyes. At the time, Olivia brushed it off, chalking it up to the stress of running a rapidly expanding empire. Once he meets our baby, she thought, once he holds him in his arms, everything will fall into place. But cracks had already formed in their marriage. Benjamin started spending late nights at the office, rarely came home for dinner, and when he did, his mood was sour. Olivia's attempts at conversation were met with annoyance. She would try to talk about the baby's room decor, medical checkups, her cravings, the usual joys and trials of pregnancy. Yet Benjamin seemed uninterested, a man whose mind was consumed by profits, expansions, and board meetings. Soon enough, rumors swirled around Whitmore Innovations. Associates started whispering that Benjamin had been spotted with a woman named Cassandra at high-end restaurants. Some said she was a new recruit in his marketing department. Others claimed she was a wealthy investor from overseas. Olivia, who had always trusted her husband, initially scoffed at the gossip. She kept telling herself that if Benjamin was with another woman in professional settings, it was strictly business. But as the rumors grew stronger and more specific, those illusions began to crack. All the while, Olivia was battling her pregnancy pains largely alone. Tired, emotionally drained, and neglected, she finally confronted Benjamin. One night, she asked him point blank, "Ben, are you seeing someone else?" He was resting on the living room sofa, exhausted from a meeting that had run until 9 p.m. The question appeared to startle him, but only for a fleeting second. Then he straightened, stared at her coldly, and lied. "Of course not. Don't be ridiculous." Olivia's suspicions momentarily subsided. She wanted desperately to believe him. Yet, doubt doesn't simply vanish. Over the next few weeks, Olivia probed gently. She checked his phone once, feeling guilty about it, but with good reason. There were messages from a woman named Cassandra Fields. They were anything but professional lovey-dovey emojis, late night, thinking about you confessions, and talk of a future beyond the confines of an extramarital affair. Olivia's heart pounded as she read them. She trembled with anger, heartbreak, and a betrayal so profound it robbed her of breath. Confronting him again, Olivia demanded the truth. Benjamin's response came clipped and irate. "If you're so insecure, maybe you should leave." The words Benjamin hurled at Olivia the night before still rang in her ears like a broken echo. "If you're so insecure, maybe you should leave." She had expected denial, maybe an angry outburst, but not cold dismissal. It wasn't just the betrayal that shattered her. It was how easily he pushed her aside, like she was a temporary inconvenience in the grand architecture of his life. The morning after, Olivia awoke with puffy eyes and a swollen heart. She hadn't slept, only lay still in bed, one hand over her belly, the other clutching a pillow that smelled faintly of Benjamin's cologne. She didn't cry anymore. The tears had dried somewhere between disbelief and numbness. In their place was a growing, hollow ache that no amount of logic could soothe. Downstairs, the house felt colder than usual, not in temperature, but in atmosphere. The walls that once echoed with laughter and late-night talks now seemed to pulse with tension. And that's when she heard it, a woman's laughter. She followed the sound barefoot, past the kitchen and into the grand living room where sunlight poured in through towering glass windows. And there they were, Benjamin and Cassandra. They sat side by side on the white velvet sofa as if they were the rightful owners of the space. Cassandra wore a silk blouse and tailored slacks, her sleek black hair cascading over her shoulders. Her nails were perfectly manicured. Her smile was sharp and confident. She looked every bit the corporate goddess Olivia had only seen in magazines. Olivia froze in the doorway. Benjamin looked up. "No guilt, no shame." Just a brief moment of surprise followed by indifference. Cassandra turned slowly, and her eyes scanned Olivia's body, pausing deliberately at her swollen belly. Then she smiled with a smug sweetness and said, "So, this is Olivia. I've heard so much about you." Olivia's breath caught in her throat. The air thickened. Her hands clenched at her sides. Every instinct screamed for her to scream, to throw something, to demand answers. But she stood still, wounded but proud. Benjamin set down his glass of scotch. "We're discussing business," he said flatly, as if that explained everything. As if business included welcoming a mistress into the home he shared with his pregnant wife. "Business?" Olivia repeated under her breath. "How professional of you." Cassandra tilted her head. "We didn't mean to intrude. You seem so busy lately." "I wasn't expecting guests," Olivia said, her voice trembling but firm. "Especially not in my living room." Benjamin sighed. "Olivia, don't make this a scene." Her lips parted. "A scene? Are you actually?" "We'll talk later," he interrupted, standing and walking away like it was nothing. Cassandra followed casually, brushing past Olivia with a lingering smirk. "Stress isn't good for the baby," she whispered sweetly. That broke something inside Olivia. As they disappeared upstairs, possibly to explore the same bedroom where she and Benjamin had once dreamed of cribs and lullabies, Olivia stood frozen, heart pounding, the world crumbling quietly beneath her feet. The following weeks were a blur of cold silences and whispered insults. Benjamin came and went on his own schedule, often leaving for meetings that lasted into the night. When Olivia confronted him, his answers were clipped and defensive. "You're imagining things. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're hormonal." He didn't even deny Cassandra anymore. He just deflected, defended her, and Olivia withered quietly in the shadow of betrayal, trying to hold herself together for the sake of the child growing inside her. She cooked dinner for one. She cried in the shower. She stopped talking to her parents, unable to admit what was happening. The gossip outside their mansion walls was louder than ever. Olivia's phone buzzed with messages from acquaintances and distant friends. Some offered concern, most offered pity, but nothing compared to the day all collapsed. It was a warm Sunday afternoon. Olivia had spent the morning in the nursery, folding baby clothes, trying to imagine a future that felt increasingly uncertain. She came downstairs for a glass of water and stopped mid-step. Cassandra was in the foyer with a suitcase. Benjamin stood beside her, speaking in a low, intimate voice. She was moving in. "Are you serious?" Olivia asked, her voice breaking. Benjamin looked up. His eyes were cold, calculating. "This isn't working, Olivia. I've tried to be patient." "Patient?" she whispered. "You brought your mistress into our home while I'm pregnant, while I'm still your wife." Cassandra turned. "I don't want any drama. We just want peace." Olivia stared at Benjamin. "Then say it. Say you want me gone." He didn't hesitate. "I think it's best if you leave." There was no fight, no screaming match, only silence. Olivia went upstairs, packed a small suitcase with clothes, her prenatal vitamins, and the ultrasound photo she had taped above the mirror. She took nothing else. Everything else had been poisoned. She walked out the front door, not saying goodbye. The taxi driver didn't ask questions. She gave him her friend Carolyn's address. Her hands trembled the entire ride. She didn't cry until she arrived, and Carolyn opened the door. Olivia collapsed into her arms. Carolyn pulled her inside and said nothing, just held her. Later that night, Olivia stared at the ceiling in the guest bedroom. She could still feel the baby's soft kicks inside her. And in that moment, between sorrow and fury, she made a vow, not just to herself, but to her unborn child. "We're not victims. We're going to rebuild. And one day, they'll regret ever thinking we were weak." During the initial stages of the separation, Olivia was consumed by heartbreak. She could hardly sleep. Every meal felt like sand in her mouth. But as time passed, she remembered the child growing inside her. The baby needed a strong mother. And so, day by day, she found reasons to stand a little taller, to breathe a little steadier. Carolyn introduced her to a local group for single moms and women going through divorces in the affluent Los Angeles area. At first, Olivia fell out of place. These women had their own sets of struggles, but many of them had long since separated from their exes and were forging new paths. She was still grappling with the fresh sting of betrayal. However, the group meetings gradually became a lifeline. Each woman's story reminded Olivia that heartbreak, though painful, could lead to strength and renewal if harnessed correctly. All the while, Michael Donovan, her lawyer, was preparing a strong legal case. He believed Benjamin owed Olivia not just spousal support, but also a fair share of property and assets acquired during their marriage, especially given her contributions to Whitmore Innovations' early growth. But Benjamin, as though acting on Cassandra's cunning advice, began dragging his feet with the legal process. He insisted on prenuptial clauses that Olivia wasn't even aware she'd signed. He used all his high-powered legal connections to stall. Meanwhile, tabloids began circulating rumors of Benjamin's high-profile romance with Cassandra, painting Olivia as the pitiful ex-wife who was too fragile to handle a man of his stature. Carolyn, protective as ever, grew incensed at each new tabloid headline. "You have every right to fight back," she told Olivia. "But first, let's get you a stable income." Through her real estate connections, Carolyn found an opportunity for Olivia to do part-time administrative work for a property management company. Despite her pregnancy, Olivia accepted. It was a chance to learn about real estate, an industry that had always piqued her curiosity, but she never fully explored. She dove into the job with surprising enthusiasm, balancing her medical appointments, legal meetings, and emotional recovery. She managed to stay afloat thanks to Carolyn's unwavering support. Her tasks involved coordinating property listings, working with potential tenants, scheduling maintenance, and learning the ropes of negotiation. As her belly grew, so did her determination. She was beginning to see that knowledge was power. During a lunch break one day, Carolyn told her about a client who was selling a 4-unit apartment building at a reasonable price. It was an older building in West Hollywood, near trendy restaurants and a growing neighborhood. "If we pull some resources," Carolyn suggested, "maybe you can buy it. You'll have monthly rental income, and property values around here are going up every year. You can become a landlord yourself." Olivia nearly laughed at the idea. "Me, a landlord? I can barely manage my own life right now." But Carolyn gently reminded her of the importance of financial independence. She also assured Olivia that she, Carolyn, had enough credibility as a real estate agent to secure a decent mortgage loan, especially if Olivia could muster a down payment. The concept brewed in Olivia's mind. If Benjamin was toying with her financially, fighting tooth and nail in court to give her the bare minimum, perhaps real estate investment was a path to stand on her own. After thorough consideration and encouragement from Michael Donovan, who believed in diversifying her potential income, Olivia decided to make a move. She used her small savings and borrowed the rest from Carolyn and her parents, forging a plan to purchase the 4-unit property. The process was nerve-wracking. Inspections, paperwork, legal forms. Olivia was reminded of the early days of helping Benjamin set up his business. Back then, she'd had unwavering faith in him. Now, she needed that faith for herself. The morning the closing papers were signed, tears of pride and relief glistened in her eyes. She was doing this alone. No trust fund, no millionaire spouse's backing. It was just her unborn baby, and the determination to survive and thrive. Owning a property was one thing. Managing it as a landlord was another. The 4-unit apartment in West Hollywood, an older brick structure, needed some renovations. 2 units were occupied by longtime tenants, including an elderly widow named Nancy Robbins and a young musician named Jay Matthews. The other 2 units were empty, awaiting new renters. With her belly growing noticeably, Olivia waddled around the building to assess every repair needed. Faulty plumbing, peeling paint, rotting window frames. At times, she felt overwhelmed. She glanced down at her pregnant stomach and wondered if she was taking on too much. But the sense of purpose revitalized her spirit. She spent afternoons making calls to contractors, negotiating prices, learning basic DIY fixes, and coordinating with Carolyn to list the vacant units at a fair but profitable rate. Meanwhile, her legal battles with Benjamin raged on. Each court hearing felt like stepping onto a battlefield. Michael Donovan would present evidence of Olivia's contributions to Whitmore Innovations, showing how she had supported Benjamin financially and emotionally in its early stages. But Benjamin's legal team countered with their carefully crafted narrative of a prenuptial agreement. They insisted she had no role in his newfound wealth. They labeled her claims as inflated and unsubstantiated. Though tensions were high, Olivia clung to the small victories. A judge ruled that Benjamin had to pay for Olivia's medical expenses for the remainder of her pregnancy. Another judge requested a forensic accountant to examine the timeline of Whitmore Innovations' growth. A third refused to sign off on a quick divorce settlement, stating that the matter required deeper investigation. With every legal hurdle, Olivia found solace in the steady progress of her apartment building. Nancy Robbins became a grandmotherly figure, offering Olivia homemade cookies and knitted baby blankets. Jay Matthews, the musician, would occasionally strum his guitar in the courtyard, singing lullabies that soothed Olivia's frayed nerves. The sense of community and mutual support bolstered Olivia's resolve. At 7 months pregnant, she was busier than ever. Still living with Carolyn, she managed to hold down her part-time job in property management while overseeing renovations. Each day brought new challenges. Contractors arrived late, materials cost more than expected, and prospective tenants required background checks. One Friday, as she stood with her hands on her lower back, trying to ease the tension, she got a call from a prospective tenant. "I'm calling about the West Hollywood apartment listing," a young woman said. "My name is Cassandra Fields. I'd love to schedule a viewing." Olivia's heart froze. Cassandra Fields. The name was so distinctive, so impossible to forget. It was her to Cassandra, Benjamin's mistress, the one who had orchestrated so much pain and stolen so much joy. Olivia's entire body tensed, but she forced her voice to remain steady. "Could you repeat your name, please?" she asked, just to confirm. The woman repeated it. "Cassandra Fields." For a heartbeat, Olivia considered hanging up without a word, but then a chilling calm washed over her. If Cassandra wanted to see the property, Olivia would show it to her. "Yes, the apartment is still available," she said, her voice unwavering. "When would you like to view it?" They agreed on a time, the following week. Olivia ended the call, pressing a hand to her belly as though to reassure her unborn child that everything was going to be okay. Over the next few days, she mulled over the irony of it all. Of all the apartments in Los Angeles, why would Cassandra call about mine? Then she recalled Cassandra was not from LA. She was originally from Chicago and had relocated here to be with Benjamin. Perhaps she was looking for a place of her own. Or maybe it was a decoy. Curiosity gnawed at Olivia. She called Carolyn, who simply said, "This is insane, but also, maybe it's a sign. Show her the place. Let karma do the rest." When the day arrived for the showing, Olivia ensured her hair was brushed neatly. Her posture was confident. She welcomed Cassandra at the front door of the building. The woman looked immaculate, as always. Her expression instantly changed when she recognized Olivia. Shock registered first, then a flicker of defiance. "Olivia," she said, her voice a tight coil of tension. "I had no idea you owned this building. And I had no idea you were looking to rent," Olivia countered calmly. She gestured toward the entrance, trying to mask her racing heart with a polite smile. "Would you like to see the unit?" For a moment, it seemed Cassandra might flee, but her pride won out. She followed Olivia up the stairs. The unit was small but newly renovated. A cozy living room, a compact kitchen, a bathroom with new tiling. Cassandra walked around slowly, occasionally glancing at Olivia's pregnant belly. Olivia could feel the tension, so thick it could be cut with a knife. "It's a decent place," Cassandra said. "Close to my new job. And Benjamin. Well, we're not exactly." She trailed off, trying to mask a flicker of discomfort. Olivia had no intention of prying or feigning sympathy. She simply raised an eyebrow, waiting for Cassandra to continue. Eventually, Cassandra confessed she was looking to move out of the mansion because living with Benjamin had turned complicated. "He's a busy man," she said, as if that were explanation enough. "And I want my own space. I thought he would, but never mind. I'd like to rent this place if you'll let me." The request sparked a swirl of conflicting emotions in Olivia. Here stood the woman who contributed to destroying her marriage, now asking for a roof under which to live. The irony was delicious. She swallowed her pride, remembering that renting the unit would mean steady income. More importantly, it would place her in a position of power. After a moment pause, she said, "I'll run your background check, verify your references, and if everything checks out, we can sign a lease. The rent is $2,500 per month, plus utilities." Cassandra nodded, seemingly relieved. They both knew the score. Cassandra needed a place to live, independently of Benjamin's uncertain whims, and Olivia was the landlord. The tables had turned. The news traveled faster than wildfire among the well-manicured whispers of LA's elite. Somewhere between a real estate transaction and poetic justice, fate had written a plot twist that none of them could have predicted. Cassandra Fields, the mistress, was now living in a unit owned by Olivia Whitmore, the wife she helped betray. The confrontation came one Saturday afternoon. Olivia was in the courtyard reviewing bids from a landscaper when a familiar voice cut through the breeze. "What the hell is going on here?" She turned to see Benjamin Whitmore storming through the gate like a man uninvited. His jaw was clenched, fists curled, his designer shoes crunching across the gravel. "You rented a unit to her?" he barked. Olivia didn't flinch. "Good afternoon, Benjamin." "Don't play games with me," he spat. "How could you lease to Cassandra?" She looked up at him calmly, folding her clipboard. She needed housing. "I had a vacancy. It's called business, Benjamin. You used to be familiar with the concept." He looked around at the building as if realizing for the first time that Olivia had built something without in the flower beds, the fixed shutters, the trimmed hedges. This wasn't a frail woman he'd kicked out. This was a woman who owned property and now his mistress's lease. "This is insane," he growled. "You're doing this to humiliate me." Olivia laughed. It was soft but not kind. "You humiliated yourself, Benjamin. I'm just managing my assets." His face turned red. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "No," she said plainly. "But I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it poetic." He opened his mouth again, but she raised a hand. "If you'd like to speak further, you can go through my lawyer. Otherwise, get off my property." For a moment, Benjamin just stood there, his ego bleeding from every pore. Then, with a sound between a growl and a sigh, he turned and left. That evening, Cassandra knocked on Olivia's door. "I didn't know he'd show up," she said quietly. "I'm sorry if that caused trouble." Olivia nodded. "It didn't. He doesn't scare me anymore." "I thought you'd be crueler," Cassandra admitted. "I deserved it." "You did," Olivia replied. "But I've got better things to do than chase revenge." There was a silence, a shared recognition. Then Cassandra said, "For what it's worth, this is the first place in months where I've felt like I can breathe." "Thank you." Olivia offered a nod, then closed the door. Inside, she looked around her small, quiet apartment. It was humble but hers. She stroked her belly, smiling faintly. Justice had not come with screaming. It had come in signed leases, planted flowers, and dignity held tight. And for the first time since her world had shattered, Olivia felt something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Power. The final month of Olivia's pregnancy passed in a blur of exhaustion, quiet strength, and a strange sense of anticipation. Her belly had grown heavy and round. Her back ached with every step, and yet she walked tall. She had survived the fire, and now she stood in its ashes, rebuilding something stronger. One Thursday evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, Olivia stood in the nursery, folding tiny onesies. A sharp pain stabbed through her lower back, causing her to gasp and grip the dresser for support. When the second one hit harder and closer, she knew. Her water broke. Alone in the house, adrenaline surged through her. With trembling hands, she called an ambulance. Hours passed like painful, rolling waves. Olivia bore them with gritted teeth and silent prayers. No partner held her hand. No husband whispered encouragements. But as each contraction came, she whispered to herself, "You are strong. You are safe. You are enough." By early morning, with one last push and a scream torn from the depths of her soul, her daughter entered the world. A piercing cry, a flood of warmth, a silence so complete it brought tears to every face in the room. The doctor wrapped the baby in a soft blanket and placed her on Olivia's chest. "Congratulations," she said gently. "It's a girl." Olivia looked down, cradling the tiny, squirming bundle, and her breath caught. The baby had a full head of dark hair and delicate fingers that curled instinctively around Olivia's thumb. Charlotte rose. Olivia whispered, her voice breaking, "Welcome home." It wasn't until much later that a nurse returned with a message. "Ms. Whitmore, there's a visitor here. A Mr. Benjamin Whitmore. He says he's the baby's father." Olivia's stomach twisted. After a long silence, she nodded. "Let him in, but only for a few minutes." Benjamin entered slowly, awkwardly. He wasn't the confident mogul she remembered. His once flawless designer suit was rumpled, his expression weary. When he saw Olivia, disheveled but radiant, his breath caught. Then he saw Charlotte. He froze. "She's beautiful," he said after a moment. "She has your mouth." "Her name is Charlotte Rose Whitmore," she answered. "I chose it months ago before everything." Benjamin nodded slowly. His voice cracked when he spoke again. "I want to be part of her life." Now she looked at him, her expression steady and whole. "That depends," she said simply. "Not on promises, but on action. You don't get to walk in and out of her world. If you're here, you stay. Consistently. Respectfully. That's what being a father means." He lowered his eyes. "I know I've made unforgivable mistakes. I know I don't deserve." "No," Olivia interrupted gently. "You don't. But she deserves a chance to know her father. If you're willing to do the work, we'll figure out how." The baby stirred, and Benjamin instinctively stepped forward. Can I hold her?" Olivia hesitated. Then, with careful movements, she picked up Charlotte and placed her into his arms. Benjamin cradled her, staring at the tiny life he'd once cast aside. Tears slid down his cheeks, silent and unbidden. Olivia watched him, a swirl of emotions within her. Part of her remembered the man he used to be, another part the man who betrayed her. But above all, she was now something else, a mother, a protector, and a woman who no longer needed anyone's permission to rise. After a few minutes, she took Charlotte back, kissed her softly, and whispered, we're going to be okay. And she meant it. 3 months later, the legal settlement was finalized. Armed with evidence of her contributions and Benjamin's crumbling public image, Olivia secured generous child support, a significant portion of Whitmore Innovations shares, and full custody of Charlotte with a structured visitation schedule for Benjamin. His company, plagued by scandal and poor leadership, was forced into a restructuring, and he was ultimately asked to step down as CEO. Cassandra, seeing the writing on the wall, paid her last month's rent and moved back to Chicago to start over. A beautiful ending. 5 years flew by. The woman who had left her mansion with a single suitcase was now Olivia Henderson, a respected name in boutique real estate development. She hadn't just managed her 4-unit building. She had used the settlement and her growing expertise to purchase and renovate 2 more properties, focusing on creating beautiful, safe, and affordable housing. Today was the ribbon-cutting ceremony for her most ambitious project yet, the Henderson, a beautifully restored 20-unit apartment complex dedicated to providing housing for single mothers and their children. The sun was bright, and a small, joyful crowd had gathered. Olivia stood at a podium, her daughter Charlotte, a bubbly 5-year-old with her mother's kind eyes, holding her hand. "When I started this journey," Olivia said, her voice clear and strong, "I was just trying to build a roof over my own head. But along the way, I realized what I really wanted to build was a foundation of safety, community, and hope for women like me and for our children." In the back of the crowd, a man in a simple polo shirt and jeans watched with a quiet, humble pride. It was Benjamin. He had lost his empire, but in doing so, he had found something far more valuable. He was a consistent presence in Charlotte's life, the dad who showed up for weekend park visits, school plays, and parent-teacher conferences. He and Olivia weren't friends, not really, but they were peaceful, effective co-parents. They had built a different kind of family, one forged not from romance, but from a shared, unconditional love for their daughter. As Olivia cut the ceremonial ribbon and the crowd erupted in applause, Charlotte tugged on her hand. "Mommy, you did it," she chirped. Olivia knelt down and hugged her tightly, her heart swelling with a gratitude so deep it brought tears to her eyes. She looked at the beautiful building, at her smiling daughter, and at the bright future stretching out before them. The past had been a storm that threatened to break her, but she had learned that the strongest structures are often built on the foundations of what was once broken. She had not only reclaimed her life, she had built a legacy. Thank you for watching this dramatic saga unfold. If you enjoyed this roller coaster of betrayal, karma, and redemption, please show your support. Don't forget to like this video, share with your friends who love a good story with a twist of fate, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more real-life drama and gripping tales of strength, determination, and the power of never giving up on yourself. Your support helps us continue bringing these inspiring stories to you. Until next time, stay strong and stay inspired.